All right, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the LoudMouth MMA podcast. I am your host, Kyle Steele. This week, we have a different crew. We have a very, very different crew. Joining us. Now, listen, if you've been listening to the podcast for any amount of time, you are going to know these two gentlemen who are on the podcast. So first up, not first off, first up, we have Mr. Keith Schillen. Hello, Keith.
What's up, man? How you doing?
I am just judging by our pre-recording banter. I have immediately regretted this decision to have the both of you on the podcast.
So hold on before we get to Blake.
Yep.
Dude, is that a new song, huh?
It's a new song.
That's
It's
awesome.
it's a new song. It's
Yeah.
a band. It's a band I used to play with back in the day. They released a song.
The question is what did the other band do to you that you got rid of them?
Oh, listen, they'll be back. They'll be back. Kevin and the Octaves will be back.
If you're with that band, just reach out to me and I'll use your song.
Well, it's one guy, so.
Yeah. So if you're with that guy, the guy who thinks we got a gun or whatever, just reach out to me and I'll use that song.
The guy who sings "You've Got a Gun" or whatever, you're definitely enticing him for sure. He just heard that plea and said, "Man, I got to get together with that guy." All right, and we have, of course, Mr. Blake Stevenson. Hello, Blake.
Bro, I'm not coming on now. I'm gonna hang up my phone.
Oh shit! Just because I changed the song?
No, it's Money Blake weather, bro.
Listen. Money Flake weather, you relax. Yeah,
Still undefeated. Money.
Still
Blake,
undefeated. Well, listen, Money Blake weather isn't undefeated, but he is. I don't listen.
Don't you? No.
Listen.
Mantra is I stay undefeated. You need to stop right now, sir.
Blake, you're the only person I have never done a loudmouth bet with, so we're definitely doing it today.
Oh, okay.
We're finding a fight to do it because you're the only person.
Okay.
Keith,
bet on how many people will get up at 3:45 a.m.
Hey, I'm doing a fight companion for the main card, so I'm jacked up about it. I'm excited.
I'm gonna be farting and rolling over until I wake up and decide to watch the cards. So
and rolling over.
I'm up at 3:45. I'm getting up at 3:45.
No, you're not, Keith.
I am too.
No, you're not.
I am.
Text me.
I am.
I want you to text me on Saturday at 3:45 and be like, "You up?"
Well, usually, hold on.
No, he's just gonna set an alarm and then he'll text you and then go back to sleep.
Exactly.
Hold on. Usually at 3:45, or texting a steal, it's usually your wife.
Yeah. Nailed it. All right. That's a perfect time to start talking about the card. First up, okay, so here's today's episode is going to be really different. So obviously, again, we got a different crew here. The other difference is going to be we're only going to talk about the main card. So listen, if you came here to hear the biopic Kalen Curran episode, that'll be separate. I'll do a separate hour talking about Kalen Curran's illustrious career. Of course, Gina Manzani's on this card. Sorrel Asker's on this card. So of course. I will do a separate episode where I just talk about them. But for this, listen, we're just going to talk about the main card. There's no reason to... this is as throwaway of a card as I've ever seen. I mean, I can't offhand...
I thought last week's was, but...
Listen, I can't... I mean, so Keith, real question.
Yes.
Just offhand, can you think of a card other than the last one that was in China that is kind of more of a throwaway than this?
Well, the one where the main event was Ted Williams versus who was the guy he fought? It was like I think it was UFC 17. I think where I gotta look it up.
Who's
I think
Ted
it's UFC
Williams?
17.
Who the fuck is that guy?
Ted, like the baseball player, Ted Williams.
He played UFC too.
he was
No, Ted Williams was a guy. He actually opened up his own fight organization after that.
Who the fuck
didn't?
Yeah.
Well, if you do today's trivia, there's one trivia on that. It's not on Ted Williams, but check out the MMA Takeovers trivia.
I'm definitely skipping that today.
Yeah, I'm definitely not doing that. So that's going to be a lot of fun not doing that.
I'll click like and move on with my life.
It's I was going to say I have a little I have a like
it's
where I track
one of my most popular segments.
I track my tasks on my phone, and I'm looking at it right now, and it said don't go to Keith's website and take the poll. And I'm like, oh great. So as long as I go to bed and don't do that, I at least got that one done.
It's not UFC 10. It's around there. UFC
Well,
19.
regardless, Keith had to be a prick and take the answer too seriously. But yeah, I mean, you got Rolando Dye, who's 8-6 on this card. Kalen Curran is 4-5. You got people on this card who are 3-0. I mean, this is just a nonsense card. I mean, even like
real fuckery of a card.
Even a guy like, I mean, honestly, Alex Caceres, you know what I mean? Like, is the third fight from the top. He's 13-10.
UFC 27, the main event.
God damn it, Keith.
Hold on. No. UFC 27. Not
like,
a fight on
do you
the
like
card.
how he always says no? Have you ever noticed that, Blake? When you're like, Keith, don't. He's like, no. And then he does it.
Yes.
UFC 27.
He's on the Duke lacrosse team.
Not like a fight on the card. The main event was a guy that was 0-1.
Jesus. Is that Ted Williams?
No, Ted Williams. He was 5-0 at that time. He moved to 6-0. He beat Steve Judson. Who
incredible.
Fell to 0-2.
This is fucking fascinating. Thank you.
He's 0-2 in MMA, but for the rest of his life, he can say he headlined a UFC.
How do you feel that you have a better professional record than him?
Listen, I have a higher winning percentage than most people. I have a higher winning percentage than John Jones.
Technically,
me and Khabib.
Yeah,
I'm so glad I hopped on this breakdown and keep talk about this fucked up shit. Like, I don't care.
Keith, tell us about some main event. By the way, everybody, as soon as they heard you start talking, they just hit that fast forward button until they got to this point. And they're like, oh, okay, they're about to start now. So we're gonna start from the first fight of the main card, work our way up. We're gonna save the best for last. So we'll fly through this early part here. So we have Muslim Salikov taking on Alex Garcia. Again, this is the first fight in the main card. And just sure, I mean, it seems like this Salikov is getting into the UFC off of probably a bit of an overhyped win, right? With Melvin, who was his last fight? Was it Melvin Gillard?
Melvin Gillard, yeah, back in
Gillard,
June.
Yeah.
I mean, just in the twilight of the twilight there. So. And that seems to be. But I think he also beat another guy that's on this card, if I remember correctly. But anyway,
Steve Judson.
He has a win over Steve Judson at UFC 36.
This is not funny anymore.
No, it's not. But we gotta give Keith some space.
Fucking Keith.
You mean let's go talk about space when Kyle calls me up and says, "Hey, can you want to do a breakdown show with a bunch of guys you've never heard of?" 10 minutes from now.
I got the same call. So
yeah, listen,
we're here,
and he's here. Listen, nobody wanted to do this.
The Muslim and the guy named Garcia. This would be like Donald Trump's favorite fight.
a Muslim Mexican. He's not thrilled.
Neither one of them are fighting in the country. So,
He doesn't right now. He doesn't know where to build the wall. Okay,
that's really why Trump went over to China to try to get this fight canceled.
that's all that it was. It's weird though because obviously
can't have Garcia Salikov fighting in my country.
I'm interested in what the story with Salikov is. I don't know if either one of you know. I highly doubt it, but like he is obviously Russian.
Yes,
but on Tapology, his rankings are in relation to China.
Yeah, because he fights in Wushu, dude.
So that's what I'm saying. Yeah. I mean, why is that? Like, what's the story behind that?
Like, Wushu is just real big in like China, Mongolia, and shit. So like, Russian motherfuckers, they're like, we're bigger and better than you. So we'll just take your sport and go to your country and go beat the fuck out of you.
Okay.
And that's kind of what he's been doing, man. You see all the gold medals? This man has a gold medal in Kung Fu. How the fuck? Jet Li don't have a gold medal in Kung Fu. You know what I'm saying? So like, this kid's bad, man. Like, I feel sorry for the other dude.
Alex Garcia. I like how he says the other dude, Alex Garcia. Who like just recently fought Tim Means and fought Mike Pyle, Neil Magny, Sean Strickland.
Sally Boy's coming over here to take over. He's doing MMA takeover right now.
I think I agree.
Submitting.
I think he's submitting to the trivia.
Yeah, he's our newest writer.
Yeah, Muslim Salikov.
He doesn't speak English, so he fits right in.
So he fits right in.
He's perfect for the taking.
So he writes better than half the writers. I got you.
Yeah,
Oh
perfect.
my gosh. Yeah. So the hype on Salikov from anything that I've heard, read, talked about with friends, it seems like the hype is real. You know, and you know, again, he hasn't obviously, you know. He has wins over big names. I mean, which is kind of odd. Now, the strength of schedule, though, is a bit weird. So he has wins over names, but the names are not necessarily, they don't mean anything anymore, right? Like a guy like Ivan George, I don't know if that really means anything anymore. Again, Melvin Gullard, we already talked about that. I don't really know what that means anymore.
It looks good when we're talking about him. Like, it looks good for guys like us who are like, oh shit, he beat a guy I know. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's
but
good.
but then around those two wins, he beat a guy who was 0-1 and beat a guy who was 1-1. Right? So he beats a guy who's 1-1, beats Ivan George, beats a guy who is 0-1, then beats Melvin Gullard, you know, and then before the guy who was 1-1, he beat a guy who was 19-15. So it's a bit funky. His strength of schedule is a bit funky.
When did he fight those guys? Because, like, the last one I'm seeing was a Melvin Gullard fight.
2017, before that, 2017, before that, 2016, before that, 2016.
Oh, were those sanctioned fights? Because, like, again, I'm looking at Wikipedia, and it could be wrong. Like,
I'm on Topology. I'm on Topology.
So that's going to be interesting to see how they introduce him, because I've seen this happen before, where, like, what, you know, was it a sanctioned fight, was it not? Because if it's not, he just gets some experience. He's staying fresh. You know what I'm saying?
What does Wikipedia list his pro record as?
12-1.
Okay, yeah. I mean, this Topology has it as 13-1.
Okay,
so yeah,
not far off.
No. So I think all these fights are sanctioned. But regardless, I mean, yeah. Now that doesn't necessarily mean anything, right? A la Dominic Reyes, right? Who had one of the worst strengths of schedules that I've ever seen, you know, going into the UFC. I mean, it was absolutely atrocious, but it didn't matter, you know? So a good fighter is a good fighter regardless of the strength of schedule. So for anything that I can tell, the guy seems legit. So I think there's no reason to question it. And it's a perfect opponent. I mean, Alex Garcia is about as run-of-the-mill as it gets. You know, he's a halfway decent fighter, and that's really all there. I mean, that's it. It's just like he's kind of as right there in the middle. So
right, and these Russians aren't playing. Like, they get sent to Serbia if they have one loss. You know what I'm saying? So
sent to Serbia.
He's not gonna want to lose. Like, they get beat up or something. Like, they get tied down in the back and tortured if they lose. So, and that's honest to God, I think this is. I heard this story. Someone happened somewhere, and you know they're gonna get beat up if they lose. So, like, he's not gonna want that.
Speaking of torture, let's get Keith's take real quick.
Yeah, I mean, Alex, he reminds me a lot of Hector Lombard. I mean, it's because they look like each other, but like each other,
look very similar,
and they fight like each other.
Yeah,
I mean, Lombard has the judo background, and Garcia is a good wrestler. He likes to shoot good doubles. He hits really hard. But he gets a terrible gas tank, very terrible gas tank, and he's got a terrible chin. And, I mean, if you watch the Tim Means fight, he looks great in the first round, and then he ends up losing the last 2 rounds. It was one of these ones where, like, you had to dig deep to win, and he just doesn't have it in him to dig deep. I'm not going to pretend like I'm some expert on wushu, you know, but from what I've seen in this guy, he actually reminds me a lot of, like, Alexander Shlemenko, where he's throwing spinning back fists, he's doing spinning. It's actually, like, effective with it, you know, other than, like, some guys who just do it just to do it. I mean, like Alex Caceres that we'll get to in a minute. Yeah, I didn't really see much ground from him, but being that he has trained in Sambo, I'm assuming he's going to be good. The one thing that I'm really worried about is that he's making his UFC debut, and he's 33. I'm not crazy about that. But, yeah.
I don't mean nothing in Russian years. That vodka keeps him young.
Yeah. Well, it's that Rocky IV. It's that equipment they use in Rocky IV. So
sure.
They're using that stuff. So he's got the things all tied up to him while he's running on the treadmill on the incline. So yeah, I'm with all you guys. It's more like, you know, what's the saying? The devil you don't know is better than the devil you do, or something like that.
I couldn't tell you.
Sure.
Sure.
It's definitely a famous saying, you know.
Yeah, did you hear that in the Waltons?
Listen, in my time, it was a very famous saying in my time.
All in the family, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
But no, that was definitely, when I was at the movie theaters and saw Ben-Hur, that was definitely in there.
Ben-Hur. Was that right after you saw was it Arabian Nights?
Lawrence of Arabia. Keith was an extra.
Keith was an extra in Gone with the Wind. He played the old man at the end. Oh shit!
Oh,
I also said something funny earlier.
Back in my
No
day,
laughs.
Highlighted UFCs.
All right, let's move on up. Alex Caceres is taking on another newcomer here in Guan Wang. So I actually did a decent amount of research on this kid because he had fought Shane Young, who fought last weekend, and I saw that there was the obviously the connection there. Yeah, this dude's legit, man. Like did either one of you get a chance to look into Guan Wang?
Yeah, I actually spent most of the time you gave me to look at him, and I actually agree. From what I've seen, this kid looks legit. I mean, he's done some kickboxing, a lot of professional kickboxing, which I obviously like. Uh-huh. And from what I saw, usually the first thing I did, I look at his record, I go, 19-1, Chinese guy, 19-1, that means nothing to me, And then I started going through the guys he fought, and it wasn't like Chinese dude. It was like Russian.
Yeah, his only loss is to a pretty
Australian.
His only loss is to an 18-1 Sambo guy.
His only loss was to Biblatov.
Bekbulat. Yeah.
Magomedov from World Series of Fighting.
Yep.
That's a legit loss.
It is.
Yeah, Bib is legit as fuck, dude.
Yeah, so I mean, he looked good. What I was impressed is he looked like he had some serious power. He was throwing a lot of combinations from the videos I was watching. A lot of knockouts, big power. I saw 2 knockouts by flying knee, so that's always good. Definitely, if Caceres has seen that, will probably kind of make him not want to shoot. I think he had like 13 knockouts, and then when he was finishing, it looked like, for example, a guy like Caceres, probably the big negative of Caceres, doesn't have that killer instinct when you have a guy hurt to like really finish him. I saw that in this guy. He was like finishing him. And then you always got Alex Caceres. I mean, he is what he is at this point. He's like we were just talking about, doing the spinach stuff, but not really being effective with it. He's always lacked power. And then he's just one of these guys that I always say he's a weird at scrambles. Like he can use scrambles to get out of bad positions, but he can into bad positions. Like the Cole Miller fight, he did that a lot. And the biggest thing is I've seen him gas out a lot. I know right away people will talk about his fight against the 5-round fight he won in the main event there against
Yair Rodriguez. That is going to
go watch the Cole Miller fight.
Yeah,
go watch the Cole Miller fight where he gasses out and he almost loses a fight, in a fight he was winning big. So back to the going with the win reference, I'll take the devil I don't know over the devil I do.
Now listen, I mean he's Alex Caceres is such an odd. He's fun, man. Like he's a fun guy to watch. He's a fun guy. I don't know, fun to watch. He's not really. I mean, I don't know, but
he does like a lot of. He's
fun.
Shit.
He's fun to root for. He's fun to root for. Do you know what I mean? Like he's a fun guy to be like. I really want to see you win, but boy, he's just not good. He's not good. He's undersized. He is going to absolutely get walked through here, and I really have no. Other than the typical guy making his debut, so and it's MMA, so you really don't know. Like other than that, I have really no question. I mean, there's no reason, and I think Caceres probably finally gets cut. You know what I mean? I don't know if they're kind of running out of ideas with him.
He struggled against Orlando Dye. Everyone remembers him beating Orlando Dye, but he won by cut. He was actually struggling in that fight. It was closer than people remember.
And Orlando Dye is also fucking terrible. You know what I mean? He is terrible. So yeah, and Ronaldo dies on this card as well, of course.
Yeah.
All right, I don't know what else to add with that one.
Yeah, Caceres. It's that, you know, we know Caceres sucks. We don't know if this other guy sucks.
Exactly.
So might as well pick him.
Well,
we might as well pick him because we don't.
Exactly. We just don't really know. But, I mean, you know enough by watching it that, like, he seems to have that skill set. Again, the problem is do you have that skill set against... Because at the end of the day, you know, we say Caceres isn't very good, but he's not very good in relation to, you know, some decent
UFC
level competition.
level
guys
fighters,
like Jason Knight, and he obviously got choked out by Faber, and he lost to Rivera.
Yeah.
I mean, those are legitimate losses.
Those are good guys.
Yeah, I mean, Wang has obviously never fought anybody like that. So, but again,
if Caceres wins, I don't think any of us would be shocked.
No, I just don't see it happening. I see him losing, and yeah, but yeah, if he does win, I mean, that's not shocking by any stretch of the imagination. I would say it'd be more shocking to see Alex Garcia win. Do we agree there?
Yeah.
That would be more. Garcia beating Salikov would surprise me more.
The thing about Garcia is that he always has a puncher's chance because he does have some big power.
He does.
And he's a pretty good wrestler. I could see him, but his gas tank is so bad. So, yeah, generally I would say I would expect Caceres to win, have a better chance than Garcia. I agree with that, but I wouldn't count Garcia out either.
Sure.
But you know what's funny is a lot of times I've been writing down, like, time zone, like, don't forget about the time zone. You know, that affects some fighters. Don't like Caceres seems like one of the guys that wouldn't have no effect on him at all because he's just a weird dude.
Yeah.
That like performing at 5. He seemed like a guy that would get up and like fight at 5 o'clock in the morning, anyways.
Yeah, like there'd be no problem with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
He used to fight in Kimbo backyard. He don't care when he's fighting.
He did? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's not one of those Kimbo he was got to start back then too, like him and
I didn't
of
know
course
that.
everybody know Jorge, but
Well, we know Masvidal. I didn't know.
I think he was in Dada 5000, like that whole thing.
Okay.
Because when you think of Alex Caceres, you automatically think of Dada 5000.
I do because I think of Caceres fighting back in the back. Like I can't get. He fought better in the backyard.
I was just talking about
their
their personalities. I was talking about their personalities.
Because they're black. Keith, you're a racist.
Good one.
Oh man.
Speaking of Kimbo Slice, his most famous video is when he lost to Sean Gannon.
Oh God, I remember that.
That happened right in my hometown. I was
it did.
at that gym where he got his ass kicked.
Wow.
I wasn't there live. Too bad. I wish I was. But
you were one of the cops watching. I know it.
That's what it was.
No, I bet on Kimbo. I'm all bitter about it. I bet on Kimbo to win that one.
Did you?
Man, you've been around a long time, Keith.
There it is.
I've been around a very long time.
Undefeated. All right.
Jing Liang Li taking on Zach Otto. This is a much closer fight. This is two halfway decent guys going at it. I mean, is it a co-main event? I mean, it
in
is.
China, it is.
It is literally, but I don't know if figuratively if this should be a co-main event. But this at least has the recipe for being a good fight. I mean, obviously, Jing Liang Li's fight with Bobby Nash was a lot of fun, barrel of fun. My lean here is Zach Otto, and I would say it's a little bit more than a lean. I'm a little bit more confident. I think he has the tools here to get at a guy like Jing Liang Li. But again, I think this is much closer than the other two fights we talked about. So nothing would surprise me too much. Especially, I mean, I think the Camacho win with Jing Liang Li, I think that
aged nice.
Yeah, that aged pretty well. I don't know what Bobby Nash hasn't fought since. Bobby Nash fought Dana Roberts. He got knocked out in the second round as well. So
he's fighting on this card.
He is. He's also fighting. The UFC loves to do that. So yeah, I mean, Jing Liang Li he's an interesting guy in that I don't really know where, like, what is he exactly? He's
Asian.
He's not a.
He's Chinese.
Thank you. He's not a prospect. I mean, you can't call him a prospect. He's beat Camacho, Bobby Nash, Zafir. Okay, that Zafir is terrible, but that's his 3-fight win streak. He has 2 losses: Nordine Taleb and Nakamura. He's also beat Diego Lima and David.
That Nakamura one, that looks bad.
David Machado. That David Machado win looks nice.
What did he even go on to do? Did he get cut?
Well, so no, David Machado did get cut, but like the thing was, he went over to Titan FC, and the fight I remember him, he had this war
was Diego Lima
with Bilal Muhammad. Oh, did he fight? He fought Diego Lima.
It wasn't Bilal Muhammad. It was Diego Lima in Titan FC 39.
Was that one? Okay, that's the one I'm thinking. Yeah, he had a war, man. That was a war.
By the way, you are the first person in history to confuse Bilal Muhammad and Diego Lima. So congratulations.
Hey, man, they both used to be the 170 champ in
there you go.
Titan. So
nailed it.
You know.
There you go.
So maybe you're not the first person. He also beat. That's not. He beat Jake Lindsay, but I don't know if that really actually means anything. I was gonna give that a lot more weight than it was worth. I was like, we beat Jake Lindsay. I'm like, oh, never mind. That doesn't really matter.
Nobody cares.
Yeah, that doesn't really mean anything.
I mean that but you're going back to that Diego Lima win. That definitely looks a lot better right now.
It does.
He had a pretty good showing on the Ultimate Fighter. I mean, I don't know who Blake's gonna take. But I just want to back up because you said it. This isn't a co-main event, and I understand like what you're saying. I just think, I mean, the UFC did what they got to do. They're going into a new, first time on mainland China. They're gonna obviously have to try to build up a Chinese fighter. That's what they do in every, when they go to hometown. They try to put a.
Do you consider Jing Liang Li to be that guy?
Well, but here's my question: Who else could it be?
Yeah, I mean, I guess
it's kind of like. You know what I mean? It's
he
like
has the best shot at being a decent fighter.
Yeah, you're the fat guy who goes to the prom. You go with a fat girl. I mean, this is what it is.
Tell us more about your prom, Keith.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Tell us more about your prom.
It's cool, man. It's cool. Yeah, I like the. If you're a fat girl out there, it's all right. I ain't hating.
Holler at Keith, the MMA takeover.
Yeah, if you're a fat girl out there and you listen to Blake and now you're offended, come over to the MMA takeover.
Go to the MMAtakeover.com/fatgirls, and you can fill out an application.
Hottie of the week, yeah. When I first looked at this fight before I did like research, I instantly thought that Jing Liang, how do I say his name? Jing Liang Li.
Jingle balls.
However you say his name.
Jing Liang Li.
However you say it. Yeah. I was definitely going to take him, but then I did a little more research. And honestly, like the first thing I said about Zach Otto was like, dude, he almost lost to Josh Berkman in 2017. Then he looked, even though it was a split decision, he looked a lot better against Kunimoto. And I was watching him. I was like, wow, man, this is not the Otto I remember that just kind of pushed you against the cage, kind of dirty grind you, like a Nate Coy type fighter or like a really bad version of John Fitch. So I mean, but that said, Jing Liang, I guess that Bobby Nash fight, he stopped a lot of takedowns. He got hurt about a minute left in the first round, but he kind of recovered from that, and then he kind of had his way, and obviously starched Nash. He throws a lot of punches. He has a lot of good power. He doesn't. I mean, it's gonna sound really bad, but he doesn't fight like an Asian fighter.
No,
he comes forward. He throws a lot of combinations.
He's a Mexican Asian.
Yeah, he
really is.
Majin.
Yeah, he fights. Yeah, he fights a lot
He's
more.
Majin.
No. He honestly, he fights a lot more like John Lineker than he does like an Asian fighter. You know.
He was gonna try to name an Asian fighter, and he's like, "Yeah, I got nothing. I guess I got nothing."
Well, I was gonna say.
You're just gonna make up some racist name. It's gonna be like what Wonton Fu.
Yeah, I mean,
y'all ain't heard of him?
John Lineker than he does Jackie Chan. You know. So, I think Jing Liang is going to stop a lot of takedowns, and I think it's going to be a dirty fight. I think both guys are going to be bloodied up. I think
it'll be a fun fight.
I think I think Otto's going to have his moments. I think he's going to do some pretty good damage in the pocket. I think Liang's going to catch him. I think Liang is going to go knock him out.
Mm-hmm.
Late knockout.
So who's getting the late knockout? Otto?
I'm taking
jingling a ding dong.
I'm taking Jackie Chan late in the fight to win.
The fuck? That's a whole new level.
I'm taking Zach Otto by decision, but again, I don't have No, I'm not confident enough to bet you. I can tell you that.
Is this where Blake's going to make the board bet with you? You said you promised for a board bet.
No, I think we're going to board bet in the next fight. I have a sneaking suspicion.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I think so.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm thinking Jingling probably by decision.
Stop calling him Jingling.
Zhang Liang Ling.
So Blake's calling him Jingling. Keith's calling him Jackie Chan. So we got to have one voice of reason mispronouncing his name, because I'm pretty sure Jing Liang is also not right. So
it's pronounced Li Jing Liang.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I actually wrote it down ahead of time.
All right, so Li Ji, I'm gonna give Li Ji. He's gonna get Li Ji gonna get to the decision. I think he might finish. He might finish Zach Otto, and like Keith was saying, you think people you think it's gonna be the first guy who's gonna try to grind him, get in his face, and stay close, and stay body to body, and fight from that inside zone. Like, this is not the first guy to try and do something like that on this dude.
Well, and he's also a minus 180 favorite. So I mean, the betting community agrees.
Yeah, I think you get a decision win.
All right, this is why we're here. So let's talk about Michael Bisping.
I would have bet on that fight, just for the record. I would have bet on that fight.
Michael Bisping, Kelvin Gastelum. I won't, because I don't feel confident enough. Michael Bisping, Kelvin Gastelum. This is why we're all here. This is an actual fight. It's an interesting fight, given the fact that Michael Bisping just got picked apart 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. Okay, I want to go around. Let's just say who's winning the fight. Blake, I already know. Keith, who do you have winning? Don't give a reason, but who do you have winning?
Gaston.
Okay, I was kind of thinking that. I also have Kelvin Gastelum. Blake, are you still on Michael Bisping?
Yeah, I am.
All right, loudmouth bet. I take Kelvin Gastelum.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta say it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, do it.
I take Kelvin Gastelum.
No, I don't want Kelvin Gastelum. I want
Jesus goddamn Christ, Blake. I take Kelvin Gastelum.
Okay.
Okay.
Take him. I don't care.
You say I take Michael Bisping.
I just said that like 3 different times.
No, you didn't. Don't make me go back to the tape, Blake. You want to go back to the tape?
I said you can pick Kelvin Gastelum. I'm gonna get Michael Bisping.
First of all, you never said the second part. Second of all, that's saying you can take Gastelum is not necessary. Jesus Christ! I like when he goes, yeah, go ahead. I go, Blake, I'll take Kevin Gastelum. He goes, okay.
Blake must be making mashed potatoes, or he's got a pie burning.
Jesus Christ!
Cooking a pie over there, buddy.
Oh my God, Blake! All right. Well, I was going to start with Blake, but fuck that. Let's get Keith's opinion on this one. Talk to me. Why do you have Kelvin Gastelum winning this?
It's funny. While you were saying that, and I was thinking, like, holy shit! 3 weeks ago, I picked Michael Bisping to beat George St. Pierre, but 3 weeks later, I'm picking Kelvin Gastelum to beat him. I was like, holy shit! How much 3 weeks changed? I mean, I've always been a Bisping hater, like back in when he came up with the Ultimate Fighter and in the early days. And then I did this I hated him. I remember dancing around my house when Dan Henderson knocked him out. And I've done this 180 where I've appreciated him because I feel like he's been greatly underrated in his career. When you talk about the all-time rankings, I've seen guys get ranked over him that hasn't nearly accomplished the things he has. Like, for example, the Diaz brothers, they haven't nearly done what Bisping has. What's pretty impressive is that this is a guy who's 38 years old, and he's, where you want to rank him in the rankings, where he's still competitive at 38, and you got to kind of put that in perspective. Fedor Emelianenko was done at 33. Theodore Ortiz was pretty much done at 35. BJ Penn was done by 31, out of the rankings at 31 years old. A thing, I know this is not really going into the fight, but a thing that I really appreciate about Michael Bisping, other than Tim Kennedy and George St. Pierre, out of every loss in his career, it's either been linked to one of 3 things. He's either avenged the loss, lost a very controversial, close decision, could have gone either way, or that person was linked to steroids, or both. For example, like Chael Sonnen, he arguably beat Sonnen, and Sonnen also has been linked to USADA violations, this and that.
Or Vanderlei as well.
Vanderlei, yep. Yeah, I mean, Vitor Belfort. I mean, I know he got knocked out, but I'm saying like that's another guy. And this is the guy. I mean, he's gone through his whole time. He's never tested positive. I mean, the guy's partially blind in one eye in fighting. I mean, I really feel like this guy doesn't get the credit that he deserves.
Sure.
And I know he plays the bad guy up, and as far as I've heard, he's actually a really good dude. He just, he does it for the, to sell the fights. I mean, I look at how he could win this fight. Obviously, he's going to have a big size advantage on Gastelum. Even at 38, I still think he'll have a cardio and pace advantage. And then obviously he can land that left hook. But on the flip side, I thought he looked really slow against George St. Pierre. Like, I was really surprised how effective St. Pierre was with the jab, especially early in the fight. And Bisping wasn't moving his head. And I know, like, that's Blake's, like, thing. I know Blake's really good at the breakdowns. I'm sure he's probably Blake is pretty fair with breakdowns. I think that he'll probably say that's probably something that worries him a little bit. I mean, he got dropped by St. Pierre, who's never been known for his power. I mean, he got dropped twice by Dan Henderson. And the thing is, I just keep, Michael Bisping has never been a guy who has big power. I mean, of course he's knocked out some B-level fighters, and obviously he caught Luke Rockhold. And most people who are picking Bisping is saying the size. But you know what? He had a huge size advantage over George St. Pierre 3 weeks ago. And it didn't come to effect. So going to the Gastelum size, he's really fast. He's got good power. I mean, we've seen that already at middleweight. I mean, he had Chris Weidman hurt bad. He can mix in takedowns. He's a good wrestler. Not that I really think that'll matter against Bisping because, Bisping's bread and butter is how good he gets back up. I just think at 38 years old, obviously that'd be really hard to come back around 3 weeks later. So I'm going to take Gastelum. I actually think he's going to put Bisping out. I think he's going to land something big.
I have Gastelum winning by knockout.
Yeah, me too.
And here's the thing. There's a couple of stuff. So like you mentioned, he got dropped twice by Dan Henderson. Dan Henderson being 46 at the time. Am I correct in that?
Yeah.
Yeah, 46 years old at the time.
That's a superhuman person, though.
Sure, I understand that, but he's still fucking
that's
46. Like, he's still 46 though, and he dropped him twice. Anderson Silva dropped him too. I know it was odd, but he still dropped him.
And it's damage that he's taken.
Yes, and then George St. Pierre dropped him 3 fucking weeks ago. And pieced him apart. So my big issue here is that, okay, so first of all, I obviously had GSP winning that fight, so I'm already concerned about where Bisping is at this point, even going into that fight. I'm even more concerned now because he had no time to recover, and one of the things that he's always relied upon. So the only reason why he beat Silva and the only reason why he beat Henderson, okay. He genuinely caught Rockhold. The only reason why he beat Silva and Henderson is because he has incredible conditioning, and that conditioning allows him to recover pretty quickly, right? Without that, career, that I understand that, but I'm keeping it real recent. Okay, so he fought Anderson Silva February of 2016. Okay, so we're keeping it recent. So the only reason why he won those 2 fights is because he relies very heavily on his conditioning, which is great, right? Nothing wrong with that. You still got the conditioning. However, your body has had no time to recover. So I think that conditioning advantage is out the window. I don't think he has the conditioning advantage anymore because his body has not recovered. So he's going to go into a fight where normally he would have a conditioning advantage, and if he was fully good to go, ready, boom, I would say that I would pick him to beat Kelvin Gastelum. I don't know how confidently, but I would probably pick him to beat him.
Sure.
But you're coming off of 3 weeks, and I mean, I don't know if you saw him, but his face isn't even cleared up yet. I mean, he still has bruising and stuff. So this is an awful idea. I personally think it shouldn't be sanctioned, but whatever. What are you going to do? I think this kind of delegitimizes the sport a little bit by letting by letting something like this happen. It was literally 20 days ago.
Well, just think about this. How ironic, and I know we'll get to Blake because he's going to be the obviously the opposite of what we're saying.
Yes.
But how ironic is it that we're a week removed from when Fabricio Verdum had to replace Mark Hunt because of fighter safety?
Yep.
But a guy gets dropped, hurt, bad, and 3 weeks later, gets choked unconscious, and 3 weeks later he can fight.
Gets dropped.
And that's pretty like.
Gets dropped, gets picked apart on the feet ironic. For 3 rounds. Just literally is pieced apart for 3 rounds. And then is fighting 3 weeks later. It's...
Well, I think it was a lot more competitive than you're making it sound like.
I like
for real.
I like to be dramatic.
I actually thought he was doing well. I thought he was trying to take over.
I think he won, and I know Blake's going to say this too. I thought he won the second round. Sure. But still... The point still stands.
Yeah, I did too. I thought he won the second round too.
He still got dropped by George St. Pierre and took quite a bit of damage and then was choked unconscious 20 days ago. So,
Yeah.
I think that's a big deal. It'll be literally 21 days. That was November 4th. This is the 25th. Yeah. So, it's 21 days.
Jordan Reed has been out with a hamstring pulled longer than Michael Bisping getting choked unconscious.
Yes. So I think that is a huge. People want to act like that doesn't matter, and I think you're out of your mind. Like someone who relies on their conditioning has not replenished their body to allow it to be conditioned. Yeah. Like that's huge. Like that's the only thing. Again, two of his recent wins were completely reliant on that. So I say he gets knocked out.
If he was 28 and not 38, I would be a lot less concerned.
Sure. Blake, thank you for allowing us to dominate the conversation. Go ahead and spew your nonsense.
Oh, my goodness. My nonsense with this dramatic guy over here. Okay. Man, I get what you're saying, Kelvin this and Bisping that. And, I'm not going off of that he's the bigger guy, but he is going to be a bigger guy. I don't think that's the main thing. Kelvin's not the world's biggest middleweight, and all the problem was when he was going into that Chris Weidman fight. Even though Chris Weidman was coming off of arguably three TKOs, right? Even though the Gegard Mousasi one was there was some dark arts going on with that. It was still 3 TKO losses. But even coming off of 3 TKO losses, he's a bigger guy. Like it obviously it adds to something. It makes some sort of sense. It adds into the equation. We were all concerned, like, okay, Kelvin's been beating up these, Vitor, he's not Titor no more, and Tim Kennedy, what's he been doing?
Titor?
Titor Belfort.
I haven't heard Titor. I like that.
Right. You can take that one to the bank and write about it on MMA Takeover, whatever. But he beat Tim Kennedy, who's been hunting for Hitler and shit like that. Like Tim Kennedy's not in his right mind to go fighting, So everybody was concerned. What happens when he goes and fights a bigger dude? And what happened was he got dropped, he got mauled, and even though he did knock down Chris Weidman, the way he knocked down Chris Weidman was just. He likes to clear a lot of distance because he's a littler guy, and his arms they're a lot small. They're like the size of Hector Lombard's arms, and that's not saying much, right?
T-Rex.
So he has to clear a lot of distance. So what he does is he leaps in. He's either all the way in, or he stays in mid distance, and he'll try to stalk you down and pressure you down. But in long range, go ahead.
Do you mind if I interject real quick? So Michael Bisping is 6'1", 75. Weidman is 6'2", 78. So I would say that the height maybe isn't that much of a difference, but 70 being if I think Gaston's 73, right? So he has like a 2.5 reach disadvantage to Bisping. He had 5 inches on Weidman.
On Weidman, and
2 inches really doesn't matter. 5 does. So I just wanted to say that real quick.
Okay,
that's what he tells his wife. Or I should say, his wife says to him.
Oh my goodness!
He's still got to clear a lot of distance. Michael Bisping, as much as he's worked on his boxing, with Perillo and stuff like that, let's not forget the man's a kickboxer. Like the heart and soul of Bisping is him being a kickboxer, him throwing his punches, landing long roundhouse kicks to your head or to your body, and if you get in close with him, he immediately goes for a clinch. Now, the reason he didn't get off to doing that with GSP was GSP's takedowns. Like, okay, yeah, he lost to GSP or whatever, but like, bro, like, it's GS fucking P. GSP is a and not only is it GSP, but GSP is a master tactician of setting up things. He's master of disguise, right? And so the reason that he got that knockdown in both the first and the third round was because he was disguising things. He disguised that Superman jab because he hadn't thrown it the whole fucking round. Like, everybody knows he throws a Superman jab with the leg kick. Didn't throw it. Finally, he throws a Superman jab and knocks down Bisping. That was an element of surprise. And then when he knocked Bisping down with the left hook, it was a surprise because he made that adjustment and then he set it up properly with his right hand and dipped under and then came over and hit him. I don't think Kelvin has the same disguises. He uses the same tactics. And quite frankly, Kelvin's, he's one for you. You must like him because he's very dramatic too. I don't been watching him lately, but like if you throw, he does this Machida thing, and I'll try and describe it as best I can. If you throw something at him and he's out of the way or he moves out of distance, he'll throw his hands up in the air like a Muppet. Like a Muppet, I'm a matador. I'm a matador. Yeah. And Lyoto Machida used to do a lot of that, but makes sense that he's doing it now because they train out of Kings together.
Who does that too? Stephen Thompson does a lot of that too.
Yeah.
It's that you missed me.
Yeah.
It's like telling the judges. It's telling the judges he didn't hit me.
Yeah, you sell the miss, right? So that's about the only thing he disguises. But he's learned that. That's not a Kelvin thing like that he's been doing all of his career. He's been doing that a lot lately, and I think it's because he's been training a lot with Lyoto Machida over at Kings. Those little seconds, it always takes me back to. And then I don't know how I get to this reference, but it's the dramatic effect. I remember in the movie Love and Basketball, girls playing. Listen, okay. I'm going to take it there.
Get romantic.
I'm excited.
Hear me out.
I'm excited.
Hear me out. Yeah. There's a point where the girl that looks like Ashanti, I forget what her name is, but she's the one.
Let's call her Fashanti.
Fashanti. She plays basketball in the movie, and so she's playing basketball at college level, and she has this dramatic effect where she shoots her threes and flicks her wrist and just stands there with her wrist flicked.
Hey, sure.
And the coach is like, "What in the fuck are you doing? Like, you're out of the game. Like,
Get out of here, Fashanti."
Yeah, for real, Fashanti. You fake. Two, you stand in there like a statue.
Showing up, you're saying? Like showing the person up?
Like she just stands. Yeah, she just stands. She shoots the three, stands there with her wrist flicked, as if like to say, I just shot a three. And she's standing there. The ball misses, and the game's moving on, and she's still standing there. The coach is like, what are you doing still standing there?
She goes full Fashanti.
Full Fashanti, right? She's trying to sell, so that whole statuesque type thing, those milliseconds in a fight, those seconds in a fight where you're taking time to just do that, those are seconds where Mike Bisping, if you're pushing him forward, he'll take it and he'll circle around, and he'll circle to attack you. Like this is what one thing that people forget, and I don't think Bisping threw enough kicks in the GSP fight. Obvious reasons. GSP's a takedown guy. Kelvin Gastelum's not that guy. Kelvin Gastelum wants to do. He's a big time headhunter. He will go to the body occasionally with like a usually his left hand. He'll go left hand straight to the body. It's nice. He doesn't do it enough. He goes strictly for the head, and a lot of the time, what he'll do is when he'll clear the distance, he'll leap in either with an uppercut and a left straight, or he'll leap in with the fake jab. He's totally meaning to miss you and knock you down with the right, like he did with Weidman. I don't think he's going to be able to do that same shit with Bisping, somebody who's good at circling out, because a lot of guys weren't able to do it. Of course, Dan Henderson could knock that H-bomb. He disguises it well. Another disguise artist. But somebody who couldn't do that was Rockhold in the second fight. Anderson Silva, the majority of the fight, right? He was barely landing his front kicks to Bisping. Bisping was drive-by piecing him up. You know what I'm saying? I call it the drive-by. He's over here, hits you. Move around, hits you. Like, that's what he was doing. I feel like he's going to do that for a couple of rounds until Gastelum slows down. And Gastelum does slow down. I watched the Tim Kennedy fight today, and as great as he did, he slowed down. In the Weidman fight,
the
Neil Magny fight for sure.
Yeah,
right?
He lost the fight because of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and even more recent, the Weidman fight. Again, of course, Weidman took him down the whole second round, but in the third round, Kelvin rushed forward, but after like one blitz, he just kind of stopped. Like he couldn't. There was nothing more he had in him. I don't know the gas tank he has, and he keeps his head up, like on the center line. No matter what he's throwing, he keeps his head straight up. That's a bad look for somebody who trains boxing like Bisping does and works the hands. And obviously that head's right there. If you miss,
just say, I guess thankfully Michael Bisping. Other than one fight. I mean, again, he's knocked out what 3 people in 7 years. I mean,
yeah, that's fine. I don't know.
How many times has Kelvin Gastelum been knocked out? Just real quick.
That's great. That's great. How many times? That's okay. How many times does GSP submit somebody? Not in many a moon, right? Like things can happen. It's an MMA fight. Things can happen. I don't know if Kelvin gets knocked out. I'm not saying he gets knocked out, and maybe it won't be with one punch, but what it might look like is something like the Kung Lee fight, who is also a southpaw fighter, who also, has, even though he threw a lot more kicks, he has to clear distance too, because he's not the biggest middleweight either. The last time, Michael Bisping fought a southpaw, he knocked him out with the left hook. When he fought Anderson Silva, let's not forget, he dropped Anderson Silva plenty of time with his left hook. I'm not saying that, he's going to knock out Kelvin. Maybe that doesn't need to happen. Maybe he just needs to knock him down. Maybe he just needs to hit him a couple times with that right hook or with the left hook and then get him into a clinch where he's working elbows and knees. And like, let's not forget, Bisping's clinch is a nasty thing if he gets it sunk in on you. So if Kelvin wants to play inside game where he starts exchanging, and he got knocked down by Weidman in the 3rd round when they fought, which was pretty fucking recent, because he keeps his head up so fucking high, it's gonna be a long night for Kelvin. And so now let's add it to the equation, of course. Yes, Michael Bisping did lose, great, but obviously he wouldn't take this fight if they didn't have a game. Like, I swear, think about it in the sense that coaches have game plans, on their bookshelves, and all they need to do is we're fighting a southpaw. Let me blow this off from the Luke Rockhold and Anderson Silva fight. Let's just rinse, step, repeat. Let's get into the cage and go beat us another southpaw. That's not a big deal. That's another day in the office for us. So I think what's going to work really well for Bisping in this fight is just 1-2 in his head kick and a 1-2 in the body kick to keep Kelvin at bay, tire him out for a little bit. He wants to get it. I think Bisping wants to keep it standing as long as possible. Let's not forget, he can take down people like that. He obviously, he's not the best at it. He's not the worst at it either. He's not no Yoel Romero, but he's got some really good wrestling for MMA. So what Kelvin needs to do is pressure immediately, the beginning of every single round, like he tends to, but not give Michael Bisping any space and stay close enough to engage with his fist, but not close enough to get clinched up. And I don't know if he can do that. So I'm going to take Bisping. I will say with the decision, but I kind of won't be surprised if it's a 4th or 5th round, TKO with accumulation of punches.
So my biggest issue is that it has to last that long. So, I'm definitely, I'm definitely going out on a limb, obviously, by just assuming that Michael Bisping's ability to recover is going to be affected just enough to not be able to win this, because that's really where I'm coming from at this point. Mm-hmm. I just do not think that he is going to be able to recover. And if the only way you're getting wins recently is by being able to recover, if you take that away, well, you lose. It's almost like that simple of an equation. So that's really where I'm coming at from it. And
Kelvin doesn't hit as hard as Dan Henderson. Kelvin doesn't throw flying knees like Anderson Silva. So those two things are taken for me off the bat. They're taken off, just off the table. He doesn't do those things.
Sure.
He also doesn't disguise his strikes as well. He's more of a blitzing southpaw pressure fighter who can wrestle when he wants to. So he might actually wrestle a little bit. We get a little bit in a tussle with old Michael Bisping. But the things that are, let's say, Bisping's kryptonite that knock him down, those are not tools that Kelvin has shown us as of late.
Sure.
I would be really surprised to see any wrestling on either guy, because I don't think Bisping would be able to take down Gastelum. And on the flip side, I don't think Gastelum would want to waste energy taking down Bisping because, two things will happen. Either Bisping gets right back up, which he's done. I mean, he's done against better wrestlers than Gastelum. I mean, guys like Matt Hamill, world-class wrestlers.
Mm-hmm.
But also, remember how effective Bisping was on his back with St. Pierre on top of him? I mean, he was doing some really good. Yeah, he was doing really well there. The one thing I got to say is when you were talking about the coach, coaches having a game plan for Bisping, I mean, you could say the same thing about Gastelum. His coaches are going to have game plans too. So
yeah, I mean, they wouldn't have accepted the fight either.
But one thing I do, I'm rooting for Bisping. I think it would be a really nice story to see him get a win 3 weeks after. The one thing I just was thinking about is how funny is it to be headlining, the biggest card of the year,
and the smallest card of the year,
to fighting 3 weeks later at 7:00 in the morning on Fight Pass. That most people will be getting up out of bed when you're, especially on the West Coast, when your fight will already be over. The one thing where I really see Bisping could do well is if he can get this fight to go deep and get Gastelum hurt a little bit and get Gastelum to second guess himself. Because Gastelum, I don't know if he's mentally tough. I mean, I think we saw that in the Neil Magny fight, and we know that Michael Bisping is mentally tough. He's been even the St. Pierre fight. The fact that he was willing to go out instead of tapping, that always says something to me. Because if you've ever been in jiu-jitsu and you got choked, to sit there and then
take it,
just have the pride to. I mean, seriously, to have the pride to not tap out. There's something special in those people. It's something, I know it happens fast. You go unconscious without knowing it's going to happen. But on the flip side, you can't breathe and you're turning different colors. And the other thing about Michael Bisping we got to remember is this is not the first time he's come in on short notice on a couple of weeks in a big fight in a main event
against a southpaw.
Yeah, and won. So I mean, his biggest win of his career was on short notice. I'm still sticking with my pick of Gastelum, but I hope Blake's right, and I thought he did a good job breaking it down.
All right,
thank you,
guys. There it is. That's the end of the episode. Keith,
love it.
Plug yourself.
No, we got to start. We got to start all the way from the prelims. We got to talk about.
No.
Gina Bassani.
Well, I was going to say, listen. I already said I'm going to do a full hour where I just talk about Kaelin Curran, and then I'll do another full hour where I just talk about Gina Manzani. So no worries, guys. You'll be able to catch up.
I'm going to go with upset pick. I think Gina Mazzani is actually hotter than Kaelin Curran.
Disagree.
Yeah.
Well, you're into facts, Keith, so it doesn't matter.
I mean, listen, Gina, don't listen to him, honey. Don't listen to him.
Listen, baby, don't.
Hey, you know what's a really good fight though? There's Zabit Maga Sharapova versus Shaman Moraes. That fight should be on the main card. That's probably the most significant. Other than the main event, that's probably the most significant fight on the card.
Yeah,
that's what's up.
Sure, I'll allow it. Keith, plug yourself.
Yeah, make sure you go to our website, themmatakeover.com. That's THEMMATAKEOVER.com. Make sure you follow us on all the social media platforms. We know we slack on social media. We're trying to pick it up. And I'm trying to pick up my own social media because if you think we slack on Twitter, I've tweeted like 10 times in a year. So I'm trying to tweet myself a little bit more. So if you can follow me, it's at Shill the Thrill, SHILLTHE THRILL1. Shill, I don't know. I fucked that up. Shill the Thrill
at fatgirls.com.
I love that he's spelling everything.
Yeah, I don't know. Shill loves fatgirls.com. I don't know. Shill the Thrill. At whatever. At what is it? At I don't know. I'm too old.
That's at
all Twitter names. So make sure you check all that stuff out.
Blake.
Yeah, go ahead and follow Loaded Joe's MMA podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We actually keep up with our own social media. And you can go ahead and find the podcasts and breakdowns and shit like that on whichever podcast platform you prefer. I'm not going to tell you how to live your life. You just go ahead and do it. Follow us, keep up to date, and click like if you like some shit. Write us a review if you love us.
Well, so everything he just said just changed the Loaded Joe's to the MMA Takeover. That's what I was trying. That's what I was trying to say.
Now, listen. I'll raise you both. You want to hear how an actual plug sounds?
Sure.
You can find.
See, listen, when you're good, you don't have to plug your stuff.
Oh, listen. Exactly. I mean, I was about to say I don't even have to do it, but
Kyle's a Beyonce of MMA
listen,
podcast.
but just listening to you guys plug yourself, I'm like, well, let me show them how it's done. You can find LoudMouth. You can find LoudMouth MMA anywhere you listen to a podcast. That's LoudMouth MMA. You can find us on Twitter, on Facebook, Instagram, all social media. Just search up LoudMouth MMA, and that's it. That's all I gotta say. So find us, guys. I appreciate it, both Blake and Keith. We'll have to do this again sometime. Maybe for an actual card. I'll tell Sean and Tony to fuck off, and we'll do a pay-per-view together.
All right.
All right.
Love
See you
it.
guys.
See you guys.
Peace.